Hello everybody, Suzanne here with Clever Poverty, where we talk about clever tips for tiny budgets. I hear this little click, click, click. It's my dog walking around, and if you kind of hear a buzz, it's my refrigerator, and I just sincerely apologize, but I'm not super techy, and if I had to make perfect videos, they just wouldn't get done. So hopefully the information will be good enough that it's worth putting up with my non-techiness. The good side is I'm pretty good at understanding laws and love explaining them and love helping people. So hopefully you'll find, all in all, you'll put up with my inability, my technologically challenged brain. You can't be good at everything, right? Okay, so enough of that. So in case you don't know who I am and you got here because I put the Van Dweller buzzword on the title, I am a law nerd. I am a research freak. I'm a very low income senior. And what I like doing is learning laws and figuring out how to use laws in a way that is helpful to regular people like me. I'm a very low income senior. I figured out the laws on how to get a Section 8 voucher in the San Francisco Bay Area, even though the lists were closed here. I just research and find ways to do things, and I'm willing to do things that will take time in order to meet my goals. I'm just very tenacious. That's the Irish side of me, and anyway, enough of that. So that's who I am. Did I mention my degrees? I've already made this video and I keep forgetting what I'm talking about, but I have a bachelor's degree in law. I have a background in property management, executive secretary, legal secretary, stuff like that. So bottom line is, I am not a lawyer. Do not try to sue me. You won't get anything anyway because I'm poor. And I would know how to fight you. Anyways, so, but, I've given you just enough information to let you know that my reason for even talking about my background and the fact that I do have a bachelor's degree in law is only to tell you that I do have a clue, and that I am somebody who's pretty good at researching laws. And what I can tell you is that I'm just what I would do. And I don't have to be careful about how I say things because I'm not a lawyer. That's the upside of me not finishing that. I did also pass the baby bar, and if you follow the Kardashians, one of them passed it. It's a very difficult exam, but it's only on 3 subjects, but I did pass that. So I don't know. Basically, I just wanted to let you know that that's the kind of person I am with my experience and my education, even though I'm not a lawyer. And just like, okay, that's the kind of person she is, what she's good at, and this is what she would do if it was her, and then you can just base a decision on that and just use that as just more information in your research. Okay, this person would do that. And then of course, check other resources, do your own research. Don't come back and say, Suzanne, you ruined my life. Like, that's my favorite little joke I like to say, because I'm telling you right now, and here we are all over the internet, that I'm making it very clear that I am not a lawyer, and you should do your own research. But I can tell you what I would do, and I can tell you the kind of person I am, and you can go, wow, that kind of person would do that based on this kind of research, and they're pretty good at research. And anyway, I should shut up about that now. And okay, I am. So what I want to talk to you about today is the fact that there is a really cool new law. Now, I'm not a van dweller. I have a Section 8 voucher, and I'm happily spending only 32% of my income on rent. But I'm really tempted to try the van life. I may never leave my apartment for good, but I may leave it. I would really like to be able to get a van that I could sleep in, where I could do some traveling, and maybe I would just always keep this as a backup. So I may never be a full-time van dweller. But in the meantime, I'm a law nerd. I love watching all the van dweller, van life videos on YouTube. I'm totally addicted to watching them. And the way my mind goes, I'm more like, instead of, I do also look at the vehicles and how they built them out and all that kind of stuff. But Suzanne's brain goes, what are the laws? Like when people are like, do you have to answer the knock? I'm like, why isn't anybody looking at the law and telling people what the law is? Like, what are their rights about answering the knock or not? And in this video in particular, that's a separate video I'm going to make after this one, because otherwise they'll be too long. I'm going to split that up. But there's going to be another video following this one about do you have to answer the knock and the laws, and my research on, the fact that I would not. That's me. But anyway, so that's another video. This video is about a law that is changing the nation. I mean, it's huge. That was decided 3 years ago, and then 1 year ago they finally reached a settlement. And what this law basically says is that you have the right in a particular district, basically all the western states so far, and other states are starting to get on board because they're afraid of getting sued, because it's expensive to get sued, and the lawsuits are starting to win. So cities are like, before we get sued, let's just change the laws. And that's outside of this district. But this particular district, basically all the western states, and I'll go into that, are saying that homeless people, and that includes van dwellers, if you don't have a stick and brick house, you are homeless. I don't care if you make $200,000 a year and you live in a $300,000 Mercedes tricked out Sprinter van, you're homeless as far as the government is concerned. So this law says that you get to park on public property, unless there is an available shelter bed. And you're going, I can just hear deflated. They don't have enough shelter beds, okay? Like pretty much nowhere. So hang in there, and let me explain this law to you, because it is so cool. So if you want to look it up, well, I think it's cool because I'm a law nerd, but you could still benefit from it and not be into reading the entire opinions by the judges like I do. Okay, so the name of the lawsuit, so if you want to Google it in case you care, is Martin versus Boise is the short version. So it's basically Martin versus the City of Boise, Idaho. So this happened in Idaho. So let me read to you what they determined. Well, let me first say that this was it is like a 12 years in litigation, and what happened was it's gone through all these appeals courts, and then finally it actually went to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court decides whether or not they will hear the case. And the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to hear it. It's okay the way it is. So even the Supreme Court said, we're not gonna mess with that. We don't see any reason to argue that case. That's what the Supreme Court does. They decide if they're going to hear it or not. They don't hear most. They decided they were not going to hear this. And so what this law says is that no municipalities, now they did use the word municipalities, so when you're thinking about public land, like my mind first went to, does that include BLM? Now they can't. No, it's they use the word municipality. So municipality would be, a city, or if it's like an unincorporated area, the county, like, that kind of thing. Okay, so a municipality. So what the law says is that no municipalities can have a law that says that homeless people can't sit, lie down, sleep, camp on public property unless there is an available shelter bed. And the available shelter beds cannot be in a religion-based shelter where they require you to participate in some way in some religious thing that they do, right? So what happened in Boise, Idaho, is this group of homeless people were getting fined and told that they couldn't be on public property, and then even when the lower courts, before it went all the way to the top, Boise said, well, there are, okay, available beds. That was something that was brought up. And they said, well, there are available beds at these missions, these religion-based missions. And the judges said, no, separation of church and state, right? There's nothing wrong with the religion based shelter, having it be about wanting to convert people and requiring them to go through their religion programs to have shelter. That's not illegal. But governments can't say that you have to go there in order to not get a fine or be arrested. You can't make it connected to government, see? So the government was saying you have to go to these religion-based shelters. No, separation of church and state. They were connecting it. Can't do that in America. So what's happening is the cities, and there are lawsuits flying, and they're making a ton of money. Like the Boise, it was at least, I think 600,000, I want maybe 800,000, I think more like, anyway, over $500,000. I think it was closer to $1 million in Boise. And part of the settlements, what's happening in other cities, like Chico just did one, and they settled right away, but it still cost the city of Chico in California like $600,000. And then part of these settlements are that they also have to start building shelters for homeless people. Extremely expensive. So, and once we got that one, right, that's what happens. You get that one case, like this one, this Martin v. Boise, that gets approved, then bam, 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 like, what? The whole nation, lawsuits are just flying, because now these, the nonprofit fair housing legal aid places, I mean, they can't just take any old case and spend all their resources on it, because they're poor, and so they need to feel like they can win, or at least win enough to pay their salaries and keep the lights on in their offices. And they don't make a lot of money. They get those kind of lawyers, they get into it because they want to do the right thing, but they still have the right to get paid, right? So, but what's happened now, since this one case has said, this is the law now, well, now, of course, all these cities and what, are starting to file lawsuits, and you're talking over $500,000 to settle. We're not even talking like the whole lengthy legal, I mean, that was the settlement in Boise. Can you imagine the legal costs over 12 years on top of the settlement? Oh my goodness. So the cities are like, So the bottom line for that is just do the logic. Are they even going to give you a hard time at all right now in your van? Even if you've got a giant motorhome that's obviously not stealthy, and you're parked on city street, which is public property, do you really think there haven't been meetings galore where they're just like, just don't bug them at all until this gets figured out, because we can't have any legal aid organization who now knows they'll win suing us. Even if we settle immediately, it's going to cost us at least $500,000. So they're not going to do it. I mean, just do the math, just like logically. Okay, so I know that part of that is, though, you're like, well, what if you get some, I don't know, gung-ho police officer who's willing to get in major trouble? Probably not going to happen, right? But anyway, just what if? Worst case scenario that probably will never happen. They do knock on the door. That's where I think you should still be stealthy, and I'll go into that more in the other video about answering the knock. But just basically. I mean, if they can't see you, it would it would be harder for them to, start trying to tell you that you have to go to the shelter. So I would still say stealthiness, just as far as not letting them be able to see into your gigantic motorhome. Like, it doesn't even have to look stealthy anymore. At least in the 9th district and really across the nation, they're scrambling. And already Austin, Texas and Denver, Colorado have already changed their laws. Like, before they sue us, let's just change the laws now. And so, this is already happening outside of the 9th district. So let me tell you what the 9th district is. Okay. And then I want to explain, like, what constitutional law they're talking about was being violated. Oh, now it's like, I'm old, I have glasses for everything, so I have to put these on for a second to look at my notes. See, what happened was it got heard in the 9th district. The country is broken up into districts. So what'll happen now, though, is that across the nation will look at that law and how case law works in America. They other cities and states or whatever can sue, or homeless people in different cities can sue in other districts and point to that case law that just happened in the 9th district and say that should apply here too. And that will start happening. And other cities are just saying, let's just get on board with this because it's going to happen. And in the meantime, we can't afford a $500,000+ lawsuit that we'll lose. Okay, so I see this happening in the future. It's already starting to snowball, probably the whole country and the territories. The 9th district, just to tell you about which states apply absolutely right now, that's the law in these states. Alaska, there are 9 states and 2 territories. Alaska, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. And then the 2 territories are Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. I don't know where the Northern Mariana Islands are. I'm gonna have to Google map that. So this law is there already, and Austin, Texas, and Denver, Colorado, that I know of so far. Okay, so they based it on the 8th Amendment, and the 8th Amendment says, which is constitutional law. Okay, I'm not an expert on constitutional law, but I like researching it, but I'm not an expert. So this is the law, the 8th Amendment, that they base this on, and this is how it reads: excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. And you probably heard of that, cruel and unusual punishments. That's the 8th Amendment. So what they base this on, Boise, Idaho was actually fining homeless people who couldn't pay their fines, and then they'd end up in jail and arresting them and all this kind of stuff. So it was like everything. I'm not sure about the bail, if they did excessive bails, but of course if you don't have $1, it's excessive, right? So they probably, I don't remember reading about bail in the full opinion that I read, but anyway. And and the judges agreed that it was cruel and unusual, and this is like in a one sentence the law that got created. So it says, as long as there is no option of sleeping indoors, the government cannot criminalize indigent homeless people for sleeping outdoors on public property on the false premise that they had a choice in the matter. And what the judges said was, they're saying that they have a choice to sleep on, the sidewalk or not, but if you have nowhere else to go, then you don't. So that's basically the reasoning that was there. And of course, then criminalizing somebody for that is just cruel and unusual. Okay, so that's the deal. Cities can no longer have laws that say you can't do it. And then where the available beds come in, it can't be related to a religious organization. So you might find some tiny town somewhere where they do have enough available beds that are not religion based, and they can say, well, you have to go stay in it. But most places don't have enough shelter beds. And so it's pretty much not an issue. Or you could go somewhere where you know for sure there are not enough available shelter beds and park your, I'm saying, like your motorhome, because they're just not gonna go there right now, because you have the right, and especially if you're somewhere like you know for sure there aren't enough shelter beds, like San Jose or wherever. But I've actually seen there's another city, like the San Francisco Bay Area is, you can't tell one city from the other anymore. They're all grown into each other. But there's a separate city, Santa Clara, and I just happened to look at, I ran onto their website, and they've actually said on their police website that they're answering. There are residents, homeowners with, $1 million+ homes now, which they probably bought for $16,000 or their grandfather did. And they don't want motorhomes parked in front of their house. Well, that unless it's a closed, gated community, that's public property. And the police on their frequently asked question page about what can be done about these people. And the cops are basically saying we have to leave them alone because of the law. But cities are telling their police department to just leave everybody alone because, like I said, it's bottom line money. So, then the next thing to consider is, like I said, do you have to answer the knock? So let me see where we're at time-wise. Okay, we're at 20-some minutes. So I'm going to stop there. But if it was me, I would not answer the knock. But I tell you why, and I talk about which laws apply to why I think I would be protected legally for not answering the knock. And that's in the next video. So thanks for watching. I hope that made sense. I tend to ramble, and I try to not go over 20 minutes because I can just go on and on and on, and nobody needs that, really. All right. Okay, so I hope it made sense and it was concise enough and in regular language enough that it made sense to you. And I wish you all the very, very best. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, comment, tell us your stories in the comments, and if you have other topics you'd like me to try and cover, I'm happy to do so. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.